Hype is akin to gunpowder for your video game. When used right, it can be a powerful asset to move copies of your game. When abused, you blow your foot off. Hype can't always be helped though. Sometimes an inexperienced developer can promise too much. Others, it's just built organically from people having to wait so long for a game they want to play. Long development times typically result in two types of games: absolute garbage that never once found its footing, or something that proves the wait can be worth it. Owlboy has been in development for nearly a decade from the good folks at D-Pad Studio. Players guide Otis, a mute apprentice owl, through an entire land in the sky, fighting sky pirates and uncovering the mysteries of owls and the islands themselves. Along the way, Otis meets more eccentric folks that lend their hand in fighting against the pirates to save the islands. Owlboy is proclaimed as a high-bit game, with some of the most gorgeous pixel art ever put on screen. The Sky Islands and their inhabitants feel alive with vivid colors and fluent animations. Each environment flows perfectly together, creating a cohesive, well-structured world that dazzles. Being a mute, Otis's friends have to do most of the talking for him, and yet, the look of fear, anger, joy that he'll emote throughout the game says so much more than text ever could. This isn't a case where pixel art was chosen for nostalgia, but rather as a stylistic one. The art within Owlboy is similar to titles on a Neo Geo that perfected using sprites and is truly a sight to behold. Similarly, the music is just as stunning. The first time Otis leaves his village to the great unknown, the music swells just as the world opens up before you. Dangerous caverns and sinister pirate ships are all complemented by wonderful arrangements that help provoke just as much emotion as the story or visuals themselves. Jonathan Gear did an amazing job of giving the soundtrack just as much life as every other aspect of the game, to an extraordinary degree. Owlboy plays like a platforming, free-roaming Zelda. The different characters you unlock along the way are akin to the different weapons and items Link gets in every game. The main focus of the gameplay is on combat and exploring to find secrets. Puzzles in each dungeon or level are all clever, without feeling obtuse or unreasonable. The combat is fast-paced. Each of Otis's friends are unique and play entirely different from one another. Players are given the opportunity to approach fights differently because of this. And just when it seems like the game starts to do something that could be annoying, like having to constantly carry your compatriots with you and ensuring Otis doesn't ever leave them behind, D-Pad Studio mixes it up and fixes the problem. The different abilities from Otis's friends are used consistently throughout the game, instead of, say, Zelda or Metroid, where you get a power in one part of the game, use it a bunch, and then only need to use it once or twice more in the rest of the game. Owlboy gives you a limited amount of resources to work with, which is part of what helps make its design so smart. The narrative is about one central theme: failure. Throughout the game, everything the leads do is met with utter disaster and bitterness from other characters. It's not a happy game despite its appearances, and it's not in the Undertale sense where you make choices and you make the sadness happen. It's just about failure from the beginning. And to that end, Owlboy's story helps engage the player. The threat within the game feels real, maniacal, and unstoppable. There's very little hope in Owlboy, but you want to fight and you want to keep going. The only big issue I ran into with Owlboy on more than one occasion was how you take damage. In most cases, Otis himself is the only hitbox you have to worry about, but there are times, and it can depend on who you're carrying and what's causing damage, that I found myself getting hurt unexpectedly. Most times this occurred was during bosses or projectile enemies, and while they took aim directly for Otis, it wasn't consistent as to whether or not your partner taking hits also affects your health. Owlboy is a rarity. It's a game that has a love for the craft poured into every asset, with charm oozing out every step of the way. This won't be the most uplifting game you ever play, but it is one that will make an impact. Few games go this long in development without needing to be completely rehauled, but D-Pad Studio was successful in making all the right choices for an unforgettable adventure. Owlboy deserves your money and time, just as much as you owe yourself to experience it.